Hi, I'm going to walk you through the assembly of an Avanti 96 pocket spinner display. An important step one first is to unpack everything. There's two boxes. One box has the tower components you'll see in the instructions, and the other has the base, poles, and the hardware. And it's worth laying the hardware out so that when you go for it later you can recognize the different types. We have washers, bearings, what we call hitch pins, like a cotter pin. We have long screws and the shorter screws, and the sign holder. Okay, we're going to mount the poles to the base. Select one pole, and again here, paying attention to our hardware, I'm going to the stack of 6 small screws. Don't need any washers. They're Phillips head screws, so I need a Phillips head screwdriver. You can see where I'm going with this. The pattern is right there for us to follow. There's nuts already buried in the base, so these are threaded holes. You can start them by hand. Better to get all 3 started before you tighten any down. Then, right now, we'll go ahead and snug these down. If you are fortunate enough to have a cordless screwdriver, by all means, speed up the process. And I'll repeat for the other pole. You don't need a cordless because they're threaded, you know. A hand driver works fine. It's just faster and easier with cordless. I like threading these by hand instead of with a drill, just to make sure we don't get them cross-threaded and you have a stripped out problem. Once the hand's got them started, I go to the cordless. Okay, back to the hardware pack. We want to put on each pole first a washer, then a bearing, in that order, because the spinners are going to rest on the bearings. I should have done this first. I should have told you, first put in a hitch pin, because this washer and this bearing is meant to ride up on the pole this high off the base. Just start this, get it over the hole. You see how these hitch pins, it's just a press and lock. You got to fish for the other side, and it locks. Simple as that. Okay, first I'm going to take you through the assembly of a tower. There's what we call the hubs and the wire strips, the pocket strips. They're packed in sets of 6, and they one at a time get inserted into the hubs. And there's little alignment. You heard the snap guides that set these wires into place, and then you can push down. I'm going to do that 6 times around. Note that I have the pockets facing up here all in the same direction so that the cards will load correctly. I snap them in the guides, push down. Now, at this point or at any point, instead of pushing down, perhaps an easier way to do this is on the floor with a hammer. Note that I tip the hub up so that the bottom of the strip I'm working on is against the ground, so that when I hit it, you can feel it and hear the difference when it bottoms out. So using a hammer, on whichever one I have angled, I can make sure they're getting tight. I like doing it on the table, just to spare me the bending over. Snap and push. Snap, push. You can see it starts to look like a spider for a moment. That'll come together. Snap, push, and the last one in the bottom level. Snap, press. Okay, now I'm going to put this on the ground because next I'm going to work on the top section. I take the next hub, and this time I want the guides to point downward. So this is again kind of like the many hands of a spider. I'm going to first try to snap them all into place before I start pushing any of them down. You'll see why. If I can get them all snapped in, I have taken control of this tower, so to speak. They're all snapped in. Okay, sometimes they'll bounce out and you have to make sure you've got them all in. I like now gently, so I don't disturb any of these, start to press them down with the hammer, and I'm trying to look for any that might have jumped out. So far so good. Aha, they're working. Once I've got them all started, I go back to my tip. If I'm going to be hammering on this one, I want it tipped so it's on the ground. You can feel when it gets all the way down. And even hear it. Because it's important that you get these all the way down. One more, I think. You can check them for sound. And you can do a visual check on this. If I've got them all the way together, the pockets should be all lined up. If I hadn't hit this one down enough, this pocket might be sitting up noticeably higher than any of the others. This one looks good. Now we repeat with the upper half of the tower. So I need another set of wire strips. This time, since I've already used the guides, I don't have them, but luckily I have ready access to this, and I just align them up visually and press. The first one of these can be harder because it might get a little floppy without the alignment guide. So I like to, again, tip it, hammer down a little bit, but I could feel that that one's solid. I'm going to go get them all started. You can feel it or hear it go down. And I'm not going to hammer any more until I put the top hub on. I'm just putting these in place. Notice I have all the pockets pointing upward. If I put one in upside down, I'd be pretty frustrated later. Important that we get them all going the same direction. Okay, now because I haven't hammered these, look at the difference in the heights. That's okay for right now. I'm going to take my final hub, I'm going to invert it so my alignment guides are pointing down, and I'm going to repeat that process, snapping them in, trying to get all 6 strips snapped in at the same time. There, you saw one pop out on me. That's not unusual at all. Once I get them all started, now it's hammer time. See how I tip towards the one I want to use. And if it's not hammering, maybe it's not snapped in. And look, I had one pop out. Not a problem in these early stages if you notice that. Go get the runaway one. And I'm just about, now that they're all started, this is the final hammer for this tower. I'm going to go around each side. Again, you can kind of hear and feel as you get close or finish. You don't want to over hammer these because you could literally go right through this plastic almost, but you can hear when the sound gets a little more solid. Here, I'll do that one again. Solid. Okay, then a visual check. I like my alignment. This tower's ready to go. We repeat with the other tower. Okay, for installing the towers, assuming in most cases there's not enough ceiling height to lift the tower all the way up and over this, here's what we recommend. Take the towers which you've previously assembled and go over just the lower section. So I don't have that much, I don't need that much ceiling clearance. I get this over the pole, making sure I got it right side up, rest in place, but you see I've got to hold it up now. So if you have a second person, this is a great time to have that assistant, but you'll see that I can also do it. Here I need a little more ceiling height here, and there's ways to work around that if you don't have it, but fishing it in from the side a little bit. But here we go. I'm taking this pole, you see I'm coming through the center hub. Careful not to drop it yet, because it'll go all the way through. I'm lowering it until I can guide it onto that fit, and now the tower is standing. So here I go again. The other way around this, let's say I had a low ceiling, I'll show you that right now. I'd first take this pole, and by the way, there's an open end and a closed end. The closed end is going to be needed for a screw on top, so I didn't mention that. Make sure you feed the lower end in first. And if I had a very low ceiling here, look at this, I can put the pole in and kind of hold it there and just come back. Now it's not sticking up. I get the spinner on. Now I fish through, slowly lower it, get it on. My tower's standing. The last step of the fixture assembly is take the longer screws, each one with a washer on it. You know where this is going. Our top plate works either way. There's no right side, upside, or down. I like putting a screw through each side because I can't see to the top. And look what I'm doing. With my hand again, I'm feeling for that threaded hole in top of that tower. I get it started. Don't tighten it. Go to the other one. You might have to move the tower to line this up. But watch this. I'm letting the screw reach through for me. In this case, I like doing it by hand, even when I have a driver, because I can't manage the gun over my head. These should be tightened up, again, whether it's with a hand driver or a cordless. Now the unit is built and structural. The last step, and I could have done this, you'll note, before installing this, was I installed the sign holder in the center of the top plate. Probably a good idea. Imagine I could have done that on the tabletop, because this is a peel and stick. I'm not going to do it on this demo model. Peel, and then take the sticky part and line it up in the center and press firmly, and that'll hold your header sign later. Good luck with your install.